Hey guys, welcome to DevOps School. In this video tutorial, we are going to learn about Docker. It helps us to create, deploy and run applications by using containers. After going through this tutorial, I promise you that the concept and understanding of the Docker will be absolutely clear to you.
But before that, let me ask you a few things. Are you dreaming of a career with higher pay and more responsibilities? Or are you ready to take your skills to the next level this year? Then start investing in DevOps School certification level courses which will help you to emerge skills for a wide range of entry level roles and as well as higher potential future positions. But with thousands of courses online and in classroom worldwide, finding the right one for your career goals can be difficult. You can consider our courses like Agile Developer, Agile QA, DevOps Certified Professionals, Site Reliability Engineering, DevSecOps, and Masters in DevOps Engineering, where you will have access to well-structured, easy-to-follow course content that has been developed and will be delivered by industry professionals. You can join on our training programs globally through online platforms, and if you are looking for classroom workshops, then we have regular sessions available in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, Delhi NCR, Mumbai and in Pune. Simply compare our many courses, find the one that suits your style and schedule best and start today.
Yeah. So what is Docker? So guys, when we say Docker, all of us is talking about Docker is a tool for container. So I will say container management tool. Okay, it's a tool. Now the question is, what is the definition of tool, right? What is the definition of tool? So tools, as we all know, the definition of tool is saving cost, because we use lots of tools, right? In the human history from last so many years, we have used so many tools, right? And we always use the tool so we can save cost, saving time and improving efficiency, right? Improving efficiency. These are the three reasons we have for the using the tool. So yes, so I think using Docker, you can save cost, saving time also, and improve efficiencies also. Now the question is, what cost? In what way? In what way you are saving time? Okay? In what way you are trying to efficiency? So for that, you need to understand what exactly you are trying to do here. Docker is managing what? Container. Now the question is, management, you understand that, okay? But the question is, what is container? This is the most important question, because you will get to know what is Docker the moment you will get to know what is container. Because Docker is ultimately managing a container. We also say Docker is a platform for container. These are the keywords you will hear wherever you read anywhere, right? Container, correct? Platform for container. But the question still remains same. What is container, right? So these questions we need to know. What is container? For time being, guys, I will ask you to forget about the Docker and forget about the container. Just remember one question. How can you run any app? Or other way, if I say, what are the components we need to run app? When I say app, nowadays we call it app, but also we can call it software, right? How can we run our software? Any software or any app, okay? Any app or any software. So if you get this answer for this question, then probably we'll be more, we'll be more in a better position to define what is a container. Okay? What is container? So what are the components we need to run any app? Anyone has idea? What are the components we need to run any app? Anyone? No? Okay. So yeah, tell me.
It's the host owner.
Right. Yes, you said correctly. So guys, we will travel in the little bit of in a time in a back in time. So let's say we were doing some sort of running app or running software earlier. Let's say 20 years from now, we were running the software or app in the physical machine. Correct? I hope all of you know that, right? We were running in a physical machine. Still we are running in a physical machine. The laptop is your physical machine. But here I'm not talking about running an app in your laptop. I'm talking about the running an app for the mass user, in the data center. I'm talking about that. So here we were running app or software in a physical server. Okay. Now physical server, and then we got migrated. Then suddenly we got the internet, right? Internet. And because of the internet, we wanted to have some app which is centralized and wants to access by everyone through the internet. For example, earlier when we wanted to install software, let's say MS Office, you wanted to install. So where do you install it? You will install in your laptop. You will install the operating system, and on top of that, you will install the MS Office. But now the MS Office which we were installing in a physical server, you were only the person who were using, not everyone else were using. Now, but now with the internet, we are accessing the same software, right? Let's say Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Spreadsheet, and stuff like that. Okay, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Twitter, Flipkart, Amazon.com. So, right? These are the software which is running right now, and you need to access it. So if you look at this, the software earlier you were running in the physical server, in your laptop, in your desktop, but now you are not running in your laptop, not running in a desktop, because slides are installed in the Google infrastructure, Google data center. Twitter is installed in Google data center. Flipkart is installed in Google in some data centers actually. So here, those applications which is based on the internet, you have not installed it. You just install the client, maybe the browser or maybe some apps which you download from the Play Store, right? So you are not running those applications. So here, what has happened after the physical servers? Once we got the internet, we migrated to virtual server. You know the virtual server. From last 20 years, we are using virtual servers. And you know that why we migrated from the physical server to virtual server. Those we will discuss in a bit on this. But yes, the question was, what are the components we need to run any app, any software? That is the question. So now let's figure it out. What you get in the physical server and what you get in the virtual server. So what is the common thing which you get it in a physical servers and virtual servers to run an application? Let's say you want to run any application. So what are the minimal things you needed? Tell me. Operating system. Wonderful. Yes. You need an operating system. No matter whether you have a laptop or virtual machines. Right now you'll be accessing for the virtual machines, right? So you have whatever you have operating system. Guys, now I want to deep dive little bit into the operating system. Okay? Because I need to know operating system is not only when we say operating system, everything we need it. I need to know what are the components in operating system now. This is the question got changed little bit now. See, you said you want to run applications. That's perfectly fine. So what you need operating system. That's wonderful. But the question is, what we have in operating system? We need to know. So now, what are the components in operating system we need to have to run any application? We need to have to run any applications. That is the questions we want to find it out. So guys, are you comfortable with these questions? Any doubts so far? Are you clear with the questions?
Yes.
Okay. So now guys, can you please tell me what you have in operating system? What you can find in operating system? Tell me.
Start with the RAM.
Hardware. No, I'm talking about operating system. Remember, operating system you install on top of the hardware. So RAM, CPU, and storage will come on below than operating system, right? Let me draw pictures to see it will be more clear. Okay. See here. So we have hardware. We have a hardware. Okay. And then top of that we have a operating system. Correct now? Right? Okay. Now the question is, what we have in operating system? That's the question. This is the gray area which we have right now. What we have in the operating system?
It will have process.
Something else?
process, threads, each will have a process, right?
Right. Process table, right? We have operating system, have a process table. Okay. That is the one thing we have. What else we have? Okay. So guys, let me give you the context. We all know that. Okay. So we all know that in operating system, we have a kernel, right? We have a kernel. Now, the question is, what is kernel? I'm not getting into that, but here, if I see, I'll just put it here, what is kernel? What is kernel? Simple. I typed in Google, what is kernel? And here, I got this definition. You can read it. A kernel is a computer program. Okay? Kernel is a software itself, right? Kernel is a program. That means kernel is a kind of software only. Okay? So, Surya, this is some noise coming from your side. So, can you please mute yourself? Guys, one request to everyone, based upon the last experience, last weekend, many of you have enabled the speaker actually. And that is not good, because what happens, whenever I speak something, the sound echoes to me itself, and it creates a noise for everyone. So please request you to avoid the speaker, external speaker, use the headphones or maybe something like a Bluetooth or something like that. So that way it will be helping you a lot. Okay. So yeah. So the question is, what is kernel? So kernel is a computer program at the core of a computer's operating system. Okay, that's all. We need to know only this one. So basically, this is a kernel, is a program, is a software. Now, doing what? Helping us. Operating system has kernel, and kernel is helping us. So human can communicate with the hardware. Simple. You know that very well. Okay. Now, the question is, what is there in the kernel? What is there in the kernel? Okay. So we need to know kernel. What is there in the kernel? So guys, kernel, we have a concept called namespaces. Okay. We have a namespaces. So now the question is, okay, fine. I don't know what is a namespace. So I'll just type kernel namespaces. Okay. And here I'll go to the images immediately. And see here I found out, okay, this is a image, one image I got it. And here I found out, in the kernel of Linux, you have a namespaces, you have a C group, you have a security, and we have a networking and storage. Okay. So all these things are basically, you have in kernel. But here I am talking about only one thing, which is a namespace for right now. Okay. Other things we have in kernel, we have a C groups. Okay. You see, as per the images only I am going through. And third thing which we have is security. And security specifically, I am talking about capability. Okay. Capability. See, I have taken from where? See the image only. In the security, you have a capability. Okay. And namespace. And then, all these things. C groups. Okay. Now, this is the main thing which I need for time being. Okay. Rest of the things also you may need it. But right now I'm ignoring it because I'm not teaching you kernel. But rather than I'm teaching you what are the components in operating system we need to have to run any applications or any software. That's the question. Okay. So guys, we got to know operating system, and inside that we have a kernel. Kernel is nothing but a program kind of software, but it's divided into the multiple sections, multiple kind of programs you have it, and programs which include namespaces, C group, security, and capability. Now the question is, what kind of namespaces we have? So now we need to little bit deep dive into that. Okay. So these are the namespaces. I'll just name it SPID namespaces. NS. I'm talking about NS means shortcut of namespace. MNT namespaces and network namespace and user namespace. These are the 4 namespaces I am talking about right now. Okay. Again, I'm saying I'm not teaching you kernel because that's a different topic. I am just focusing on my question, this one. Okay. Please remember this one. So I'm just talking about these 4 namespaces. C groups, security groups, and capabilities. So these are the main components which we have in the kernel, and these are the main components in operating system what we need to run any application. Okay. Now, so far I have named it all these components, but we have not got an idea about what are the use cases of each one of these. So guys, so far so clear? Any questions, any doubts? Any questions, any doubts?
No, we are good.
Okay. So now, a question.
No, Rajesh.
So now question is, what are these components? So let's understand this. Okay. So here I am creating one more images. Okay. So very simple, guys. This is a hardware layer. Okay. And on top of that, you have a kernel. Okay. You have kernel. Now, when I say kernel now, just imagine it's an operating system. Okay. Operating system has a multiple more tools for the human, but actually we don't need so many tools to run any program. For the program, you don't need it. We, being a human being, we need those tools actually, like a calculator or GUI, graphical interface and all stuff like that. So kernel is the one. On top of that, we want to run applications. So here, Rajesh will log in. Correct now? And now let me grab one of your name, and which is called Alex. Alex, you have logged in. This is you logged in to the same Linux boxes. And let me Karthikeyan. Okay, so Karthikeyan you have logged in. Okay, so you have logged in. Now you tell me. This is Rajesh. This is Alex. This is Karthikeyan. 3 people have logged into the one Linux box. Okay. Now Rajesh wants to run Apache as an application. Correct now? So now you tell me, each one of these users is having isolated user space. Don't you think so? I have my own isolated user space. Alex has their own. Karthikeyan has his own user space. That means Rajesh cannot, in simple word, if I say, Rajesh cannot go to the Alex dashboard if he is not a root user, normal user I'm talking about. Okay. Karthikeyan cannot go to the Alex and Rajesh also. Don't you think so? Right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Yes. The question is how this isolation has been created. Have you ever thought about it? How can a user without a root access is not able to access the other desktop users area? How? An answer is hidden in user namespace. So guys, what happens? User namespace is a kind of library in kernel, we call it namespace, which get initialized and create a user isolation framework. I mean layer, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So here, let me ask you guys, how many users you can create in one operating system? Do you have any numbers? Do you have any numbers? Guys, please respond promptly. That will help me. How many users you can create in one operating system?
Unlimited.
Unlimited. Right? There is a n number, right? Unlimited. You don't have a number for that. Okay. So that means this library, this namespace, you can initialize n number of times. Okay. That means n number of users you can create. How much time it takes to create a user, you know that very well. So I'm not going to deep dive. So actually, operating system, think about it. Operating system has kernel has namespace, one type of namespace is user namespace, which is allowed to be initialized multiple times. Okay, if I'll tell you, if you are coming from the programming background, it's like you have a class and you can instantiate a multiple objects, and you know that properties of object class, you get in the object, and as many objects you can create from the something like that, not exactly that, but something like that. Okay, so now guys, we create a one user here, user namespace 1, 2, 3. One for Rajesh, one for Alex, one for Karthikeyan. Okay, great. Now the next question is, guys, these three users is having and sharing one mount or multiple mount. When I say one mount or multiple mount, let me simplify this question. How many C drives you have seen in one operating system? How many? 1 or 2 C drives or 3 C drives? How many?
One.
Only one, right?
One.
Yes. So then each of these users gets only one mount. Each user will see only one mount. That means in a line of keywords, we call it temp, OPT, ETC, this, that and all. This is called mount. Okay. So how many mount get initialized here? Now the question is how this mount get initialized. That is the question. So that again, let me repeat here, operating system has kernel. Kernel has a different kind of namespaces. One of the namespaces which is called MNT namespaces. Okay, and this initialize your mounts in your operating system, what you can see it. Okay, so how many? One mount. Okay, one mount. Here, mount is allowed only one time. Users are allowed n number of times. Ultimately, you initialize mount namespace, you get 1. You initialize user namespace, you get n number of times. Okay. Now guys, next question is, all these users, how many network they get it? When I say network, let me simplify this question. Let's say Rajesh is running Apache, Alex is also running Apache, and Karthikeyan is also running Apache. Okay. So now Rajesh is running Apache on 80 port, Alex is running Apache on 80 port, and Karthikeyan is running Apache on 80 port. Do you think it's possible?
No, it's not possible.
No.
What is the problem you will experience here? What are the problems?
The port is
It's already used by some user.
Correct. Yes. So guys, at the operating system level, how many network get initialized? Only one, in simplified way. Okay, because of that, you will not be able to run two Apache on the same port. It has to be different port and different port. Then you will be able to run it, but not on the same port. So that means how many network get initialized in the one operating system? One. And this network is shared by everyone. Everyone. Rajesh also, Alex also, Karthikeyan also. Very simple. Now the last question, guys. How many PID, like someone said, like when I asked what you see in the operating system, and he said process table, right? So basically, have you thought about it? This process table I'm talking about. Let me go to the task manager. In as of now, I don't have a Linux machine, so ps-ef you can do that in the Linux to see that. But here, what you can do is here. This is the process table. Okay, this is the process table. You see that. Do you see one PID got allocated to multiple process? Do you see 212, which is the PID number, which is allocated to any other process? Do you think it's possible 2 PID can be allocated to the same process? Do you think?
No.
No. That means, now the question is how come this process ID is being maintained? Process table, this is process table or PID is being maintained. How this being generated from 0, 1, 2, 3, 5,000, all this thing, how is being generated? From where it is coming? So it's coming from this namespace, PID namespace. So how many PID maps get created? Only one. And that's one of the reasons the process ID is never get duplicated. Process ID is never getting duplicated because of this reason. Why? We have one. So see here guys, very simple thing. In operating system you have kernel. Kernel you have a namespace. Namespace has a type of namespace like a PID. You get 1. MNT, you get a 1. network namespace you get a 1, user namespace you get a n number of times. So that is how, let me draw a picture right now. So here you created a MNT, you created a network, and you created a process map. Okay, so here this is network, this is MNT, this is a process map. Because of this, you get a process map, PID, network, and mount. Okay, now this is shared with all the users, and these all three users are able to use all these resources now, and because of that, you are running Apache. Okay, you are running Apache. So here, understand this here, all these resources which you have here and this user space is coming from the kernel. Kernel has what? Namespaces. Okay. So now, if I ask you, if someone asks you, what are the components in an operating system we need to have to run any applications, Akka software. So basically, we need a namespace. These are the namespace, which is important essential component to run any application. So did you understand that, guys?
Yes.
Now the question is, guys, you see here, first you visualize and then see that. This is the PID table. Have you noticed each of the PID number, get allocation of the CPU and RAM? Look at this CPU column and RAM column. 472 PID, you see, it got a 0 CPU right now, but maybe they are using the RAM. Here, look at this here. There's some software which is using 30 CPU and some RAM. So you look at this here. Okay, you see that. WebEx is consuming 23 CPU and 200 MB of RAM or something like that. 2 GB of RAM, sorry. So now the question is, this is the PID, right, which is created PID table, which is created by namespace PID namespaces. But who's allocating the CPU and RAM to each of the PID? And depends on their request. CPUs. Okay. Okay. You can read more about this stuff little bit later. I'm not teaching you all this in everything inside, but at the high level, so you can get some idea about this. What is the C group? So see here, what exactly they are saying. So here, okay, so see, full definitions you have to go a little bit. So pretty long definition, but in short, I'm just here writing, allocating CPU and RAM to PID. That's all. Okay, depends on the need. Okay. Now, this is done by C groups. Now, last thing which I'm going to talk about is, now which user, think about it here, which user, Rajesh, Alex, and Karthikeyan, which user has a root access and which user have a non-root access. Understand that. There's a two access. Root access, non-root access. Normal account, super account. Okay. So who decides in the kernel, who decides this user, if you log in, you will get a better access, greater access. But if you log in with this user ID, you will not get access, more access. Who's in the kernel, which component is involved? Security, capability. So capability decides root or non-root access for user. So guys, if I ask you, what are the components we need to run any application, you will say, okay, give me the kernel, these are the components, these are the C groups, these are the security I need to run any application. Guys, is that clear for everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Now guys, you know that these all things you have in operating system. And you also know that these operating system you have in a physical server and virtual server. So I think at a high level, we got to learn that what are the components we need to run any application. Now let's discuss about what is container. Okay. So now we have to understand the problem area. Okay. Guys, what is the problem here? So the problem is very simple, and the problem is how can we see the problem? How can we run more apps in with less hardware? Simple. That's the question. That's the problem which we have. Okay, more apps with less hardware. So that's one of the problems. In short, saving cost for running apps in a data center. Always understand that. How can we save a cost for running? Because now you know that. See, where do we need the compute? Where do we need a storage? Not in your device. You need a little bit of storage and compute in your device, but actually Twitter is not running in your laptop. Twitter application is not running in your mobile. Twitter application is running somewhere else, and you are accessing that through the browser or client or devices, right? So the compute what they need is there in the data center, not here. So the question is, how can we run more apps? The problem is, how can we run the more apps with less hardware? In short, how can you save a cost? Because you know that you are not paying for the Google, Gmail, you are not paying for the Facebook, you are not paying for the LinkedIn, you are not paying for Twitter, you are not paying for any application which you are consuming every day and night. You are not paying for the WhatsApp. So their priority is to run application, more and more application, but with the less hardware, ultimately saving a cost. Okay. Next problem which we have, how can we deploy fast? Okay. Some of you might have gone through the DevOps program also, and you know that immediate release is one of the keywords you might be hearing a lot in the DevOps session, right? Immediate release, deployment. You have to release faster. You have a bug in the Ola right now. So Ola cannot say, okay, give me 24 hours to fix it. You have to fix it within a few minutes or few seconds. How can you deploy? And when it's a deploy, it can be rollback also. Deploy new software and roll back the one which is not working faster. In short, you can say save time. Okay, save time, because deployment, okay, will ultimately, if you deploy faster, it will save time and you can focus more on the development and QA. Okay, so how can we deploy faster? So guys, how can we reduce a waste of running apps in data center? Okay, these are the three problems you are trying to solve in this session, Docker session. So now we are going to understand how these three problems are correlated with the container and how container is being managed by Docker. So guys, did you understand the problem now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, let's do a little bit of recap before we will go for the break. So what we are discussing here, we are discussing about what is Docker. And Docker is nothing but a container management tool or platform for containers. The question is tool. So basically using Docker, you can save cost, saving time, and improving efficiency. But we need to know what is container. And before defining what is container, you need to know what are the components in operating system you need to have to run any application. And we got to know operating system has kernel has namespace. Namespaces are different kind of namespaces, cgroups and security. Apart from that, PID you have it only one, MNT one, network U1, but users can be initialized multiple. Okay, and on top of that, these are the problems which we are trying to solve in this session. Okay, so any questions before we take a break?
If you liked our Docker session so far, please enroll our general membership for $399 plan to get access of all the parts.
Along with that, you can access our other tutorials such as Docker, Ansible, Jenkins, Terraform, Splunk, AWS, Azure, and various other DevOps related premium tutorials with our channel membership. If you would have any issues with our channel membership, you can drop an email to us at contact@devopsschool.com, or you can also unsubscribe from channel membership anytime if you don't want to continue or did not like the video. To get our channel membership, click onto the join button, select the $399 plan and grow your skills immensely.
Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries. We will reply to them at the earliest.
Thanks for watching.